Hi everyone, this is Connor, and I did my theory presentation on the Expressivist theory, also known as the Neoplatonic theory. So a little background on Expressivist theory. It was actually originally associated with process theory, but eventually it came into its own, more so as being writer-focused and helping students to find a personal, authentic voice as opposed to trying to conform to a certain rigid structure. So the theory was popularized in the 70s by writers like Ken McCrory, Peter Elbow, and Donald Murray, and specifically they were railing against the existing status quo of theories like process theory and current traditional theory that taught that writing was something that could be taught systematically and needed to conform to a certain structure rather than being student-focused, student-led, and just focused on student creativity and empowerment. As far as a working definition of expressivism as a theory, really the core concept that one needs to take away is that it's about student-led self-discovery and finding one's own unique voice as a way of building independence, creativity, and really just writing self-confidence. Expressivism kind of steers the focus away from writing as a product or as the end result of a predetermined process and places it on the writer or on the idea that the development of ideas within the writer or the development of a approach to writing is really what the center of instruction should be focused on. So in accordance with those principles, in an expressivist classroom, the teacher really relinquishes a lot of authority to become more of a facilitator of student-led collaborative activities. In a lot of ways, classes are more resemble what one might think of as a writing laboratory or a workshop as opposed to a traditionally structured lecture. Tasks in an expressivist classroom typically focus on free expression and student-led creativity, so some assignments that would fit in with that would be free writing or journaling, any activity encouraging peer dialogue, and really any writing assignment that really stresses that students kind of form their own perceptions and their own truths through their interaction with other writers in collaborative settings. Since this is a theory that has such a strong emphasis on writers and is writer-centric, expressivism really differs from a lot of other theories of teaching composition in that its notions of audience are that audience concerns are really secondary if they're a concern at all. As one might expect, expressivist classrooms really lend themselves to non-traditional and innovative approaches to writing composition. Students are often given a lot of freedom to choose their own formats that suit their skill level or their confidence level or whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. And an interesting note is that creative writing courses, maybe obviously, can be directly traced back to the early roots of expressivism. You can see here some of the key terms, and a lot of it is just re-emphasizing some of the points I've already made, in that the focus of expressivism is really on empowering students to find their own unique voice, enabling them to have creative freedom and creative expression in the classroom, and perhaps most importantly, teaching them to ignore audience expectation, at least at this level of their learning, so that they can really focus on just growing themselves as communicators. What's really interesting is this concept of voice, in that it really just refers to students finding their own unique personal style of communication that isn't really something that can be taught so much as something that they discover or even create for themselves through reflective exercises and writing and creative expression. These are some of the early major players in the development and popularization of expressivism as a theory. Ken McCrory, Peter Elbow, and Susan Sontag all played a role in kind of developing the tenets of expressivism. In addition, you can see here Donald Murray, James Berlin, James Britton. Each of these figures is the author of a work that's considered seminal in this field and really helped just develop expressivism as a legitimate approach to teaching composition. Since freedom of personal expression is a cornerstone of expressivist theory, it kind of follows that the quote-unquote typical assignment that you would find in an expressivist classroom could actually be a wide variety of things. Reflective journals, creative writing assignments, in and out of class free writing exercises, essentially any writing exercise that encourages students to either experiment or develop their own personal voice in a way that's comfortable and useful to them would qualify as an expressivist approach. A key component of assignments in the expressivist classroom is the collaborative aspect of this work. Expressivist teachers find that students get a lot of value out of peer review and collaboration on these creative exercises with their peers. Assessments related to the teaching of expressivist principles in the classroom include happenings, which were a concept developed by quote-unquote radical expressivists like Charles Deemer and Susan Sontag in the 70s that essentially were an experience that was meant to shock or surprise the audience into a kind of higher state of awareness than they were in previously. Some additional assignments that could get students writing in the expressivist mode include asking students to share their responses to current events or maybe a highly charged emotional situation. Students could be asked to write about what they believe they might have done or might have felt in somebody else's situation, which obviously engenders empathy. And really just any approach that allows students to explore non-traditional ways of expressing themselves in a way that really emphasizes personal creativity and independence. So just to sum up, expressivism really exists at the opposite end of the teaching composition spectrum from the rhetorical approach, and that expressivism is focused on the writer and the rhetorical approach is really focused on the audience or on how to craft a highly persuasive or effective argument or statement. Possibly the biggest con to the expressivist theory is that it can really be easily misconstrued as being focused on writing for self-interest or self-absorption to a fault, in that writers lose all sense of communication in a social context and their writing never really develops in the way that it's meant to. And probably the biggest pro of the expressivist theory is really that it just is an excellent mode for building the confidence of young or inexperienced writers. It really encourages creative self-expression. It takes away the shackles of process theory or trying to meet the demands of any rigid structure or academic convention. And in that sense, it's an excellent theory for teaching young and beginning writers who really need to gain a sense of personal and intellectual freedom.